Before we celebrate the joy and hope of Easter, it's important to pause and remember the day that came before, the day that changed everything for Jesus' friends and followers. This day is known as Good Friday, a day that is both somber and sacred, a day that invites us to reflect deeply on the meaning of sacrifice, love, and loss. As the sun rises quietly over the olive trees, the world seems to hold its breath, waiting for what is to come. Good Friday is a day marked by sadness and reflection. The sky itself seemed to mourn, with dark clouds gathering and the world growing quiet and still. It was as if all of creation was aware that something deeply significant was about to happen. The streets of Jerusalem, usually bustling with life, were eerily silent, as if the city itself was holding its breath. On this day, Jesus, the Son of God, was led to a hill outside the city. There, a wooden cross stood silhouetted against the darkening sky, a symbol of suffering and sacrifice. The crown of thorns, cruelly pressed onto his head, was a painful reminder of the mockery and pain he endured. This was the day Jesus, who had brought hope and healing to so many, was to face the ultimate test of love. The night before, Jesus had been praying in a quiet garden surrounded by his closest friends. Suddenly, the peace was shattered as Roman soldiers arrived, led by someone Jesus once called friend. He was arrested, not for any crime, but because people were afraid of his message of love and forgiveness. His friends, confused and frightened, watched helplessly as he was taken away. Jesus was brought before the authorities and put on trial. The crowd, once eager to hear his teachings, now shouted for his death. Even the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, seemed troubled by the decision, but he gave in to the pressure of the crowd. The noise and anger filled the courtyard, drowning out any voices of reason or mercy. In that moment, justice was overshadowed by fear and misunderstanding. Though Jesus had done nothing wrong, he had only ever shown kindness, healed the sick, and welcomed the outcast. He was sentenced to die a cruel and painful death on a cross. The cross, stained with blood, became a symbol of both suffering and love. His mother, his friends, and those who believed in him stood at a distance, weeping and heartbroken, unable to understand why such a terrible thing had to happen. Their grief was deep, their hope seemed shattered. As the day faded into night, the world felt empty and cold. Jesus' friends and followers were left in shock and sorrow, feeling as if all hope was lost. They could not see how anything good could come from such a dark and painful day, yet, even in their sadness, the story was not over. Good Friday reminds us of the depth of love and the cost of sacrifice, and it prepares our hearts for the hope that is yet to come. Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark, some women went to visit Jesus' tomb. They carried spices to anoint his body. As they walked, they worried. Who will roll away the heavy stone for us? They wondered. The stone was very large, far too heavy for them to move. Their hearts were heavy with sadness as they approached the tomb. When the women arrived at the tomb, they were astonished. The stone had been rolled away. The tomb was empty. Trembling with fear and wonder, they peeked inside. Suddenly, there were two angels, shining bright. "Don't be afraid," one of the angels said. "You are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen. Remember what he told you?" The women were amazed. Could it really be true? Was Jesus actually alive? They remembered that Jesus had said he would rise again. Joy and excitement just bubbled up inside them. They couldn't wait to tell the disciples. So they ran as fast as they could, their hearts pounding with the incredible news. "He is risen! He is risen!" When the disciples heard the women's story, they found it hard to believe. Honestly, it seemed just too good to be true. Peter and John decided they had to see for themselves. They raced towards the tomb, their hearts pounding with a mix of hope and doubt. John, being younger, outran Peter and arrived at the tomb first. He peered in and saw the linen cloths lying there, but he didn't go in. Meanwhile, the disciples gathered together in a locked room, their hearts heavy with fear and uncertainty. The air was thick with anxiety, and the silence was broken only by whispered worries and the sound of footsteps pacing. They had heard rumors that Jesus' body was missing, but confusion and doubt clouded their minds. The loss felt unbearable, and each man struggled to make sense of what had happened. With trembling hands, some of the disciples clung to each other, their hearts pounding in their chests. The shadows in the room seemed to echo their grief and fear. All they wanted was to be close to Jesus, to understand what had happened, to find some comfort. But now, even that small hope seemed lost. the emptiness of the room mirrored the emptiness they felt inside. Suddenly, as they sat in fear, a figure appeared among them, Jesus himself, standing in their midst. The disciples were startled, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Jesus greeted them, saying, "Peace be with you." His voice was calm and full of reassurance, and his presence filled the room with a sense of awe and wonder. At first, the disciples could not believe their eyes. Was it truly Jesus, alive and standing before them? Some were afraid, thinking they were seeing a spirit, but Jesus showed them his hands and his side, inviting them to see and touch the wounds. The reality of his resurrection began to dawn on them, and hope flickered in their hearts. The disciples' fear melted away, replaced by overwhelming joy and amazement. They rejoiced, unable to contain their happiness. Jesus spoke to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." In that moment, the impossible had happened. Jesus was alive. The one they loved and mourned was standing before them, victorious over death. Jesus then breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." In that instant, everything changed. The fog of sorrow lifted, and recognition and hope flooded their hearts. The disciples were forever changed by this encounter, filled with a new sense of purpose and courage. Filled with joy and a new sense of mission, the disciples left the room, eager to share the incredible news. "We have seen the Lord." In that quiet gathering, fear was transformed into courage, and despair into hope. The appearance of the risen Jesus marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the disciples, but for the world. But not all the disciples were present when Jesus first appeared in the locked room. One of them, Thomas, often called the twin, was missing. When the others told him, "We have seen the Lord," Thomas's heart was heavy with doubt. Grief had clouded his hope, and the pain of loss made belief difficult. He said quietly, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." Days passed, and once more the disciples gathered together, this time with Thomas among them. The doors were still locked, but suddenly, just as before, Jesus stood among them. His presence brought a gentle peace to the room. He looked at Thomas with kindness and understanding and spoke softly, "Peace be with you." Then Jesus turned to Thomas, inviting him to come closer. "Put your finger here," Jesus said. "See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." In that moment, all of Thomas's questions and fears melted away. Overwhelmed, he fell to his knees and exclaimed, "My Lord and my God." Jesus smiled, his eyes filled with love. He said, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." In that gentle moment, Thomas's doubt was transformed into faith. His heart, once full of sorrow and uncertainty, now overflowed with joy and wonder. The story of Thomas reminds us that even when we struggle to believe, we are not alone. Jesus meets us in our doubts, offering peace, understanding, and hope. And just like Thomas, we too can find faith and joy in the presence of the risen Lord. And so it is every Easter, we remember that Jesus is alive. Death could not hold him down. He conquered the grave and rose again just as he promised. Because Jesus is alive, we can have hope. Hope for a future filled with joy, peace, and love. Easter reminds us that even in the darkest of times, light always triumphs over darkness. Love always conquers hate, and life always wins over death. Happy Easter.